Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to start the webinar. So as other users still jump in onto the webinar, that will be okay. This webinar will be recorded, so it will be available after the webinar is over. So to kind of just get started, so today we're going to be having a webinar on the CTC MEPP3 or Mechanical Electrical Plumbing Productivity Pack and how it's being used during a project startup. So just a quick introduction about myself and SolidCAD solutions. My name is Patrick Simic. I am a technical consultant on the BIM AEC team for SolidCAD solutions. I've been with them for approximately almost 5 years. I am a certified professional within Revit. I provide training and technical support for Revit, Recap, and other related AEC products. So SolidCAD. So what do we do? So SolidCAD, we help design firms, constructors, and owners implement technology and optimize workflows from the design stage to managing and also to the sharing aspect of a project. We work with many different partners to get our professional service out and also to optimize every single firm's workflow from the design, manage, and share side of things. As we can see, we work with Autodesk, Bluebeam, Leica, and as today we're going to be working with the CTC software, which is the productivity pack that has been created by them. With all those different partners that we are working with, SolidCAD does provide BIM and AEC services, professional services across multi-disciplines, from consulting services, implementation, support, training, scan to BIM. So a very large spectrum of the items that we can provide for your company. So today's webinar is going to be about the CTC MEPP3 project startup. So the first question is, what is the MEPP3? So the MEPP3 is a content library for MEP design in Revit. It comes with a starter template project, a sample project, a large family library, and any additional supporting folders. So again, this is not an add-in, it is content built from CTC, which will then do everything upfront for you. Nothing has to be created, and it gets you already into the door just to start designing within Revit. So what is the purpose of the MEP3? It's to get started now in the Revit MEP design. So instead of always creating the content needed for your firm, MEP3 already does that for you. So all you got to do is purchase the package or the pack itself, and you could already start to dive into creating your designs. Also, there's a lot of advanced features and content that do not just come out of the box from Revit, which the pack does provide. So what is the purpose of this webinar? So this webinar is to demonstrate how quick a project can be set up and have your team designing within a short period of time. So with that said, we're going to jump in already to the CTC pack itself. So when purchasing the pack, what you will be provided is a large content of files. So within the pack itself, you're going to have the MEP content, which will be the Revit families from annotation items to also any component items. So we do have model elements and annotation. So modeled elements, you can think about it as different mechanical equipment. Many hours have been put into this pack to follow industry standards from not only the modeled side, but also to the graphical side of the representation. You will also be provided a sample project, another Revit file with the schedules and details already loaded into there, a large shared parameter file, which does do many advanced features inside of the pack that Revit out of the box does not do, the starter project, which we're going to be going over today, and a user manual. So before we jump into the pack itself, within the user manual, there is a step-by-step process of how to start up a project. Within these steps, you can then quickly get up and running the project as needed and being guided with how to use the pack itself. So again, we could see we have a large list of different step-by-steps that should be taken into consideration when starting a Revit project using this mechanical productivity pack. And today, the webinar is going to be in regards to going the step-by-steps within the productivity pack itself. So the goal of the MEP productivity pack, but also the startup webinar, is to have you start modeling within a very short period of time. Doesn't matter if it's a small project or a large project, a lot of things are going to be preset for you with just a couple items that we have to go over and initiate for us to already have a quick project startup and ready for our team to start modeling. So when we open up the productivity pack, we will then see a splash screen. So from here, as we could already add some information in regards to the pack itself. The pack, when it comes, the starter project, it is a project template file. It's not a native Revit template file, which you create. It is a project template file. The reason behind this is it's already a work sharing file, which means that there's going to be already collaboration and work sets initiated. Work sets are being initiated within the project itself because many view templates are being based off of the work sets that we have inside of the project. So once we start the project as we have here, we're then going to make sure that you initiate all of the work sets to be on. So just to kind of show you which the work sets that we have in place already. Here we're going to see there is a list of different work sets already initiated from the project template file. So we have the electrical portion of the pack, the fire protection, mechanical piping, and plumbing. You'll also see you do have links to specific placeholders of architectural, CAD links, electrical, or structural. So again, everything is already preset for us, and all we really got to do is load in what is needed inside of our projects. So as being a work sharing model, we are going to be detaching the model from the actual central file and going to be saving it out. So once we already have that open, we could then specify some of the options. So again, here I already have the pack open and ready for us to use. And the first thing I want to do is load in our architectural model. So in this example, we're just going to be loading in an architectural model, no other discipline to it. So to load in a model, just simply going to the Manage tab, going to our Manage Links. Here you can see there are already placeholders within the project template file from the electrical, structural, and architectural models themselves. And we could come in here and just simply reload our architectural model. And if there are any questions during the presentation or after, I will take those questions. And if during the presentation, I will answer them as needed. So once we have the architectural model now loaded, going to select OK, we're going to save out the model. So again, as we usually have, just saving the project to our specific file location, which I will just create a central model folder. Renaming the project as needed. You could add this and just say office. And prior to saving, we want to specify a couple options before we hit the save button. So maximum backups, again, from different firms, you may have different options to backing up your files. In this case, we're just going to have an additional of 1 backup. And also for the work sets, when you start a new project, we want to make sure that we could open a project as quick as we want by being able to specify which work sets we want on or which work sets we want off. Also, a default thumbnail preview or opening view will be the starting view sheet. So as the file is saving itself, within this productivity pack, there already has been a browser organization with multiple views already created. So when you see a native Revit template that you start up, usually there is 2 levels. Inside of the productivity pack, there is 10 levels already initiated with many views derived from them. And along with those views, they have been placed onto sheets. So in the browser organization, we are going to see that there is going to be a few different view classifications. So there's going to be a total of 5: analysis views, construction document views, coordination, project setup, and working views. So again, based off of the naming convention, we know kind of which views we want to work with. Your construction document views, those are the ones that get plotted on your project. So again, those are the ones that are being placed onto a sheet and then plotted for your final documentation. Working views, as it's already kind of within the word itself, that is where you do all of your modeling. So again, within those working views, you start working within there and you do all your modeling. Those views are being utilized specifically to help you see all other systems and disciplines for you to easily coordinate when you are modeling your specific type of system. And as we have the other views, analysis and coordination, they kind of speak for themselves. Analysis, you can see when your systems are all created and then what has been connected, what has not, and any kind of calculations, or in a case like HVAC, if there's any flow going through these systems themselves. Coordination, as it kind of stands from there, coordinating between different types of disciplines and also having views ready for you to export in a case maybe to Navisworks. But in this case, in this webinar, we are going to be using the project set of views that we have in our project browser. So by going into the project set of views and jumping into the floor plans, we can see there is a list of different floor plans already created for us. There are 10 different levels within the project startup template file. So if we just jump into the project setup 01. By going into this view, we can see there are already derived scope boxes. So within here, many of these scope boxes, they are already driven to our different construction document views. So as we have the loaded architectural file in the background here, we can start to see the different scope boxes available for us to use. But before we do that, we definitely want to copy monitor all the levels into our project. So inside of this project setup 01 view, we can see there's already 2 sections for us to use, a horizontal section and a vertical section. So I'm going to go to my vertical section. Once we go to our section, we will then see a list of different levels that are part of the productivity pack. What you want to do from here is you want to remove any levels that will not be part of your project. So again, different projects will be a different scale from small to large. And in this case, inside of the project that I will be working with, we have a list of 3 different levels that we're going to utilize: level 1, level 2, and roof. So the first thing we want to do is I'm going to move the grids to kind of associate them to the extent of where we have our architectural grids from the link. So again, what you want to do from here is you want to extend your levels on both views and having the grids extending to approximately where you would have your architectural grid lines to for the levels. Once we have the grids moved for the levels, we want to move and delete the ones that are not needed. So in my case, I am going to delete from level 3 all the way to level 8. So again, by deleting these views, if you were to notice on the right side of the project browser, there are many views already created from these levels. By deleting these levels, the views will also be deleted with them. So once I select the delete key, we will then see you get a list of items saying you are deleting specific views that have already been created. So in this case, that is okay because my project is only a specific amount of levels. So deleting the levels as needed. So by deleting the levels, as previously mentioned, there are many different view classifications. There's a total of 5. Within those view classifications, there are views already created specifically for them. Once the levels are deleted, you can now see in the project browser, I do not have any other levels in regards to anything past level 2. Also, when deleting levels, you want to delete anything that was incorporated in regards to the reference planes, which I'll talk to in just a second. And actually, finally, there will be a basement level that I would get rid of too. So once we have our levels deleted, we want to copy monitor the levels to our architectural link. So using the copy monitor tool in our collaborate tab, I am then going to copy monitor any of the existing levels. Inside of the options bar, we do have a couple options that you can specify. So where we see the levels, we then specify what type of level head we would like to use. So again, I'm just going to match it to be the exact same as the architectural model. Also, at the very bottom of additional parameters that we could use, I'm going to reuse any levels with the same name. So prior to using the copy monitor tool, you want to rename your levels so they match exactly to the architectural models. So when you click the copy monitor tool, everything will automatically adjust to those levels. And again, it will be case sensitive. Same will go for your grids. You do have the ability to copy monitor any type of grid that is inside of the project also. So once we have a couple of those settings available for us, you can use the copy monitor tool. Again, if you have a very large model, let it be like a condominium, you do have the ability to use a multiple tool, which will then copy monitor many levels. So I'm just going to copy monitor a few of the levels. So simply by clicking the level, since they are the exact same name, it is going to do the copy monitor tool. It's going to associate the level 1 that's already inside my project to the level 1 that's already inside of the architectural model. And I'll just kind of do the same workflow for the other levels. Here you will see the naming convention of roof that is inside of my project is the same as the roof level inside of the architectural model. And by selecting the copy option, my roof level will automatically adjust to that level height. Again, this is because of the options that has been done inside of the copy monitor tool. So once complete with the copy monitor of the levels, I'm going to finish the tool itself. And by zooming into here, we will see now all of our levels have been monitored to the architectural model itself. So inside of these levels, there is going to be additional reference planes that are driven off of the levels themselves. Early on inside of a project, when you get an architectural model, not always will you have a ceiling for you to host your elements to. So in a case like that, there are already going to be reference planes, which then you could host your elements to those references. Also, even if there are architectural ceilings inside the place, but you want to have the control of when you do move up and down any element associated to that ceiling, these reference planes are here for you to use. You could add them, you could also remove them, but initially you're going to have those reference planes ready for you to use inside of the project. So again, by adjusting the elements inside of our vertical section that we have over here, we could also go to our horizontal section directly from view and make sure everything is correctly aligning itself in regards to the levels. So the extents of where your level lines are going to. Once we have now all the levels copy monitored, I'm going to jump back to my project setup 01 view, double clicking into here. And what we're going to notice, as previously mentioned, we do have scope boxes. So inside of the productivity pack, you're going to have initiated scope boxes. And as we could see, we have an overall scope box for the building. In my project browser, if I extend where my construction documents are, again, the views that are going to be plotted, and if I go to a specific discipline, let it be HVAC, here I could see already views created from those levels. So previously I would have had a lot more views, but since I deleted the levels, they are now gone from our project browser. If I were to open project browser setup 01 and also my HVAC plan 01, inside of this HVAC plan 01, by looking inside of the properties, a view template has been already applied, but also along with that, a scope box. So all of your construction document views have already been applied with a scope box feature. So when you are starting a new project and inside of your project setup, by adjusting the scope boxes, if I kind of move the scope box a little bit in from this project setup view, you are adjusting multiple views within your project browser already that are being updated simultaneously. So by changing a scope box boundary within my project setup view, back onto one of my construction document views, I can see the same option has also been updated. We start to go to another type of view, let it be plumbing. You will also see, once again, within this view, we have the same scope box as overall building applied and the changes happening. So when you do start a project, you copy monitor the levels as needed, go back to your floor plan and adjust the scope box design for the size of your project. Along with the overall scope boxes, we do have other system scope boxes already pre-established for us. So if I were to move these scope boxes over, simply by looking at a plumbing plan section, there is a plumbing plan 01 restroom. So if I double click into this restroom, it is going to be empty. It has been applied by a specific scope box. So inside of the project setup, if I were to take my plumbing scope box and simply moved it around to the designated area, this will now, if I go back to my plumbing plan restroom, will automatically update that view. So again, utilizing multiple scope boxes that are already at your hand to derive and create specific boundaries for the areas that you will be working with. Same thing if you have any electrical rooms, you do have the power or the system scope box needed, and also like a mechanical room, you have the HVAC scope box. So again, these could be created, moved around, and then applied to any of your views. If you are not using any other work sets, maybe just the architectural background you have, or no electrical or structure is a part of it, you do have the ability to, inside of your work sets. So again, we saw that we established work sets before. You can turn on and off any work set that you do not want. So if I am not using the structural work set or the electrical, I could turn those specific work sets off in all views since they're not being currently used within your project. So again, I'm just gonna uncheck those work sets. So within the productivity pack 2, I've done the copy monitor of the levels. I've adjusted the scope boxes. The same thing can be done for the grids itself. So once we have our levels copy monitored, once we have established our scope boxes, you can then furthermore select your link. And if there is any phasing to be done with the link, by selecting the link, we can see in the properties, it's already been associated to the workset link architecture. If there are any additional phasing parameters that you may need to change, select your link, and inside the edit type, you do have your phase mapping. So again, that can be changed and associated to the different phasing of your project. So once we have our levels in place, once we have our scope boxes in place, then we can start moving on to creating our spaces. So again, inside of our project setup view that we have already open, Here we can start initializing and placing in spaces. So again, spaces we'll find in the Analyze tab at the top. You got within the Spaces and Zones area. Here we will then see you do have a couple options, place spaces automatically or individually. I'm going to use the place spaces automatically. Inside of the productivity pack, there are many pre-created content. A great example of this is space tags. So if I come into a space, I could already see that it has been already updated with the room name and room number. So inside of the productivity pack, by selecting this tag itself, if I look in the drop-down properties, there are multiple space tags. So the default one that I just used was a room name and number, which automatically picks up that room's name and number and applies it to the tag. We also have space name, number that we could utilize, which I will do here. So I'm going to change all my space tags to have the space name and number. Here you'll see that the space name and number then gets updated with the tag. We only see the name as being space and then a valued number. Using the space naming utility, so in the Analyze tab where we had spaces, you have that space naming item. So I'm selecting that option here. And we can now specify any names and numbers as needed. So by selecting that, what the space naming utility would do, will pick up any of the spaces information of room, name, and number and place it within that space field. A great way of looking by placing in your spaces is looking at your schedules. So by going into the project browser that we do have a large list of different schedule types. So in the productivity pack, you will have mechanical and electrical schedules, but then also there's going to be some general schedules. Inside of the general schedules area, we will then see a space schedule. And by clicking into here, it is a great way to see where spaces have been placed, what spaces have not been placed, or in a lot of the cases, when you do place spaces automatically, sometimes the architect does not place in the space in that current area. As we have over here at the bottom, you have number 226 and 230, and it says space. To the right, we can see there is no room identity data. So from here, for us not to have that space just being inside of our project itself, we can then take these two rows and delete them from the project. And it's a quick way and easy way to see where spaces have been placed, where they have been not, or has the architect actually used a space inside of that area or the room. Also within this view, we can start to see the bounding heights. So again, there is an unbounded height. We can see a bounded height by changing the space values. So if I go back to my project setup view and I select all of my spaces, if I were to change the space value, so if I go from level 1 all the way to level 2, I associate that, and I go back to my space schedule, here you can start to see different items start to change. So by adding a larger value for the space limit, if it's being bounded by an element, it will start to indicate within the schedule. So now we know the space is being properly enclosed by a specific bounded element. The other three spaces that we see here at the bottom, they are not being bounded by anything. So in this case, we may need to lift the space limit. You are able to do it from your schedule. So simply by updating the schedule and giving a larger unbounded height, you can now start to see that the ceiling bounding area starts to properly enclose itself. So again, another great way of having these space schedules helping you understand and verify that your spaces have been properly enclosed and bounded by elements. Once we have the spaces in place and everything organized as needed, it is that easy to copy and paste your space information from view to view. What you may want to do is inside of your spaces prior to copying any of the elements over is adjust any space areas that are needed. So if you hover over a space and you select it, you could always move the arrow where it needs to be. along with the tag that's associated with it. So now that we have multiple views within the project from our plumbing plans, mechanical piping, power, systems, fire protection, we can then select all of our space tags within the view, copy it to a clipboard, and simply paste it to any view that we would like. So align to selected views, and here we can start picking and choosing which views we would like to paste our space names to. So again, I'm just going to select a few of these space or view areas. And in a matter of seconds, all of the other views will now be populated with that information. So selecting a few of those, hitting OK. And if I were to just open, like I did one for the power plan, we can now see automatically those space tags have been initiated to those views. So again, you could always quickly adjust and modify these spaces and then apply them to multiple views at once. So once you get your general setup, so in this case, I just did the first floor. We could do the same thing for the second floor also, which would just be in the project setup, utilizing all that same information as I've just done. I could use the place spaces automatically. I could even apply using the space numbers option, removing any spaces that are not needed. So again, understanding from floor to floor where our spaces have been, using the space naming once again. And we could verify back into our schedule. So again, now we have from space 1, level 1, and level 2. Here are a few not placed spaces. So for them not to be existing in the project, I could also delete those spaces from my project. And we could also adjust any ceiling heights as needed, so we could verify it to be the exact same bounding item. So now that we got our levels in place, we have our scope boxes in place. Along with these scope boxes, they update our construction document views. We can then start looking at our sheets. So if I go into my sheets area in the project browser and I expand it, inside of the productivity pack, you're going to have multiple sheets outlined for your levels. So initially we started with 10 levels, but in this case of this project, I only have 3. So we have the first floor, second floor, and the roof. So once it comes to going into your sheets, you just have to remove the ones that are not going to be needed. So in this case, as we could see, we have our different views available for us to use, and we can start to delete any views that are not going to be needed. Already onto these sheets, views have been placed. So if I look onto a M101 level 1 HVAC plan, that construction document view that has been associated based off of our scope box has already been placed onto a sheet. The bigger your project gets, the smaller your project gets, inside of the productivity pack, you do have the ability to select your title blocks and change the size, again, depending on the project. So there is already going to be pre-existing sheets and views already placed onto your list. And in this case, you would just be cleaning up any views that you do not need. So in this case, I could select from level 3 to 8, delete those HVAC plans, mechanical piping. I could do the exact same thing, and you start working your way down. Another area you'll see inside of the sheets, there are already going to be sheets with schedules already placed onto them. So inside of the productivity pack, many schedules have already been created for you. Yes, they can be modified as needed, but in this case, inside the productivity pack, if I would just open up one of the sheets, we will see a list of different schedules already applied onto those sheets. So in the productivity pack, a lot of content is being built up, not only from families within Revit, but also to view templates, schedules, sheet layouts, browser organization, and view views. So again, here is an example of a M602 sheet with multiple schedules already applied to it. It's as easy as you start modeling and these schedules will start to populate themselves. So again, many different types of sheets with views already laid onto them, schedules laid onto them, and also within the pack, you do get details. So again, within the productivity pack, you don't only get the schedules and the Revit families, you'll also get a large list of details available for you to use and to modify as needed per your project. And again, we do have many different disciplines as needed. So if I were to come into the plumbing discipline, I could start to remove any sheet that is not needed within my project itself, and any sheet with schedules that will not be needed also. Other types of schedules that are created for you within the project for you to kind of see, there is going to be a view list. So again, within this view list, you'll see the different types of views available for you to use. And inside of the schedules, you also have a sheet order showing you all of the different sheets that are within your project. So again, another good indication of what you have in your project. Any sheet also that has been driven from the architectural link will show up here in regards to the different include links parameter. So we will have that available inside of the project itself. So as we kind of have a quick way to set up your project, so as you start within the productivity pack, a lot of the content has already been built out for you. View templates already have been created for you. So if we were to jump into back the project setup, as you would go, it would be start your project, save this as into your project folder, link in your architectural model or any model that you're using based off one of the placeholders that's inside of the pack. Copy monitor the levels as needed. Adjust these scope boxes to the desired size of the project. Add any more scope boxes, modify the scope boxes as needed. Within these views, once you have them there, inside of the sections, you could delete any levels that are not going to be associated to your project itself. Inside of the pack, you do have many views and levels already created from levels. You start removing those, they remove from your project environment itself. And then the final one would be going to your sheets and also associating and removing any sheets that are not going to be applicable to your project. Along with this pack, there is a Dynamo Script that can be utilized, which is helpful. And it's kind of a pick and click of what you want inside of your project. So you can start with how many levels do you have in your project? What type of project is it? Is it mechanical piping, just plumbing? So you can start picking and choosing from there, and then the Dynamo Script will run and remove any unnecessary items that will not be part of your project. So we have that in here. And again, the productivity pack will be coming with a Excel sheet doing a step-by-step process. So as we come to a quick kind of overview of how a project startup would work within the productivity pack, are there any questions in regard to what was done from start to finish, or any questions about the productivity pack itself? So we'll take a few minutes here as we have 15 minutes or so left of the webinar. So again, there is a Q&A portion within the meeting itself. So if there are any questions, please put them inside of there and we could get those covered. I'll also leave up right now any contact information if you would like to contact me myself, and I could definitely provide you any additional information in regards to the webinar that was covered. Let's take a couple minutes here if there are any questions or comments in regards to the pack. I'll leave it open for a few more minutes. So a question here is, if we delete levels from the setup, can we create them again? Yep, so you're able to create levels again inside of the project. Just the only thing you're gonna be losing out on is if there were previous views created from it. So as I deleted levels 3 to 8, all of those views will be deleted from the discipline. So yeah, so if you delete a level and you want to bring it back, there is no really way unless you place it back into your project itself and recreate a view for all of those disciplines as needed. There are additional CTC tools which will definitely help automate the process of recreating views for a level that may need to be added or was accidentally deleted, which would be called a view creator. It's part of the BIM batch suite. So with the view creator from CTC, a tool, what does it do is it looks for a level, and then you could apply standards to it. Meaning if you have a, say, I deleted level 3 by accident, or if a new level is being added, say level 3, I would create a level 3 and then use the view creator, which will allow you to select that level, select multiple view templates. So if we're going to have mechanical piping, we're going to have power, we're going to have lighting, you're going to have plumbing. I can select all of those view templates specifically, have them associated to level 3, and with a click of a button, the view creator will automatically create all of those views in a matter of seconds and place them properly based off the view template inside of your project browser. So again, yes, you are able to add a new level or create a new level within the different disciplines views. So creating spaces, does that affect view range? No. So view range is only a visibility item that you're going to have within the view that you have open. Your spaces are driven off of constraints. So you do have a base constraint, you do have a top constraint. So again, spaces will not affect anything to do with a view range. So what about so in regards to spaces and calculations, yes, they will be affected, because if you start to adjust a space area and also a space, say, constraint from base constraint to top constraint, then volumes and areas do change, meaning that the calculations that Revit will be creating will also be affected by those changes. So yes, any space change will affect a calculation. Yeah, so I'll give another minute or two for any kind of questions or comments. See if anyone's available. It doesn't look like there's any more kind of questions coming through. So I'm going to be concluding this webinar. I'd like to thank everyone that was a part of the webinar. And if there are any other questions moving forward in regards to the productivity pack, which was covered, or any kind of services that SolidCAD may provide your team, feel free to contact me with my contact information right now on the screen, and we will be glad to help you out. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.